Welcome into In the Trenches. Tanner Kern joined alongside former CFL defensive lineman Maxx Forde. Max, is the divisional round. It's here. We're talking DFS defenses. We're talking value picks when it comes to DFS. We're also talking game picks too, because it's the divisional round and people want to know who we think is going to win these games. Max, I'm going to come in with the hot one right now. Who is going to be the biggest surprise upset this week?
Man, So I'll start here. I'll say I'm not sure there will be one. I do like the favorites this weekend. Well, I don't really – the Baltimore-Buffalo game, I know technically Baltimore's a favorite, but I consider that more of a toss-up there. So I'm not going to cop out and say, Buffalo's going to be the upset. That's pretty down the line. I know it's a pretty tight spread there. But if we're choosing from the other three games, if Los Angeles plays the way they did the other night, they can beat anybody with that kind of a defensive performance. It's just truly impressive what they did. I know we've been talking about them on the show for a while, about they haven't quite put it all together, but they have the pieces, and shoot, it all came together last week where they got Darnold on the ground 9 times, they put up a defensive touchdown, everything was rolling their way. And if they can take that momentum, it's kind of like the playoff runs that the New York Giants used to put together with that defensive line, if they can kind of build off of that. So
yeah, I totally agree. There's a few games that could go upset direction. I would say that Rams game potentially. The late game, you'd flip a coin. I wouldn't call either side of that an upset. Yeah. So it should be really interesting football. But as we do every week, guys, we go through our favorite DFS defensive picks. We're going to do it a little differently this week. We're going to talk about a big storyline in each game. So as we move into the first one here, Saturday kickoff, 4:30, ESPN, ABC. Houston Texans going against the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are notorious for not covering the spread, keeping games close. And then you got the Houston Texans defense coming into this one priced at a nice price of $2,500. This seems like a smash to me, Max. I'm playing this 100% of the time. I know the Chiefs are, they have the explosiveness. They can pop off. They have the experience in the playoffs. But when we look at the Texans, this is a really good defense. Willie Anderson Jr., Danielle Hunter, 2 guys that have torn it up on the edges this season. I'm really looking forward to this matchup. How about yourself?
Oh, absolutely. And like you said, this price is one that you've got to go after in DFS. It's a defense that's playing well. They just completely dominated a game that they were underdogs in there. And now they're coming in against a Kansas City team that, we've talked about all year. Like, they have the explosiveness. It's there. It's in their DNA, but it's not something that we really see very often anymore. And so I do think this is a team. They have those pass rushers that can get to Mahomes. And Mahomes always is the kind of quarterback that likes to improvise. But if you got guys getting home to him, keeping them in the pocket, kind of limit some of the special plays that he might be able to make, and that he always seems to find a way to make in January and February. So I think this is a good price. They have the pieces defensively to kind of limit what Kansas City does, and Kansas City obviously hasn't been as explosive. And then if we go outside the trenches there a little bit, Derek Stingley, I know we've talked about it a little bit as well, is playing as well as anybody back there in the secondary right now.
Yeah, definitely. So when you look at the Chiefs, 8-0 at home this season, they did play the Houston Texans at home on December 21st. 27-19 win for Kansas City, able to put up 27 points there. Mahomes in that game was 28-41, 261 touchdown. They ran for 124 yards on 28 carries as a team. Do you think we see a repeat performance of this, or is it more likely the Houston Texans comes out and plays like they did against the LA Chargers?
I still trust that championship pedigree that they've got there in Kansas City. If I'm picking this game straight up on the money line, I think Kansas City does find a way. They've been in these situations before. They have the experience. Not to say that Houston doesn't. They're a younger team, but they won a playoff game last year. They've won one this year. So they do have some playoff experience, but I still think it's a younger team that probably, when it gets down to the wire in these critical situations, I think Kansas City just knows how to find ways to win. They've got kind of that toughness that you look for. It's kind of hard to quantify, but I do think that Kansas City finds a way to make it happen here. It might be a little bit closer than that December game, but I think that they win this game.
Yeah, I can't see picking against Kansas City from a spread perspective, a little different there. And then the DFS defense price at $2,500. Max, I know you were all over this one, but at the same time, too, do you see it going south more than it going positive in this game? Like, do you think this is a big risk taking them against Kansas City, or do you think it's going to be a tight one?
I think it's a tight one. Like we've seen Kansas City, the way they've been winning, even though like I said, we keep talking about that explosiveness, but they do like to grind it out a little bit. They control the clock, control the ball, not necessarily score a ton of points. And I think this is one where it's going to be a low scoring game. And if Houston can make a few plays, like we said, they have the personnel too. They have the personnel to affect Mahomes in the pass rush there, and then they've got the guys on the back end to capitalize off of that. So if they can make a play or two on top of keeping the score low, I think that this is one that, $2,500. That's a steal compared to what else is on the slate this week.
Yeah, definitely. So now we got a $2,200 price defense. The Washington Commanders going against Detroit Lions. I think there's no doubt that Detroit is going to be able to score. I would probably stay away from Washington's defense in all areas of DFS this week. But looking at the flip side of this, you got the Detroit Lions defense coming in at a $3,200 price point, which is pretty expensive considering Washington has the talent to move the ball. They have a quarterback who just seemed to convert time after time on third down and fourth down last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Jaden Daniels here. So we know that the Lions played well in week 18 from a defensive perspective. They were really good around the red zone. If you're good around the red zone, you're going to score points in DFS. But do you think they have a repeat performance, $3,200? It seems pretty pricey for a hot Commanders offense here.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit more expensive than I'd like to see. I do think that this Lions defense, it's crazy just to see guys go out. They keep getting guys hurt, and they keep performing. Aaron Glenn's doing a fantastic job with that, with their undermanned personnel kind of going down the roster into the practice squad. They are getting some guys back. I know Anzalone coming back for their last game was pretty huge. He had a monster game. But, it's one of those things where with all the injuries they have, you expect them to catch up to them at some point. And in the playoffs, you're going to get every team's best shot. Washington has a great offense. They have a defense that a lot of people are able to score on. And when you're the Detroit Lions with the offense they have, like you said, I think Detroit's going to score a lot. So I think if you do take this Detroit Lions defense, what you're hoping for is just your offense gets ahead in the game. It helps kind of let the defense pin their ears back a little bit, try to get after Jaden Daniels. You're hoping for that game script where maybe you get up 2 or 3 scores early, and then you can kind of maybe call a more aggressive game plan on defense. But outside of that, I think you're looking at a game that has shootout potential. So $3,200, I don't love the price, but you can tell yourself a story where Detroit gets out to an early lead, and maybe it works out for you there.
Yeah, I mean, I could see the Lions covering 9.5 points in this game, but the Commanders still having the ability to put up close to 30 points, honestly, just because this is what we're going to get with these two teams. It's probably going to be shootout, like you said, Max. So moving into Sunday here, we got the 3:00 game, LA Rams versus the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles come in high price point on defense, $3,400. Is it worth taking the Philadelphia Eagles defense against a really hot LA Rams offense? I mean, we know the Rams aren't great on the defensive side of the ball. I know they played well last week, but Philadelphia, known for their defense, are they going to be able to shut these guys down?
I think they can. I also think 3,400 is a little bit expensive. If we're comparing it to that Detroit price, I probably would prefer to take the Eagles defense over the Detroit defense at those 2 price points. Still prefer Houston to both of those. But I think this Eagles defense has the personnel. They've got a defensive play caller that's seen everything. He coached my dad as a linebackers coach back in the 80s. So Vic Fangio he's seen everything that the NFL has to offer there. And he knows how to get his personnel in the right position. I know they've talked a lot about Zach Bond there in the second level of defense. Former edge rusher. I used to be edge rusher, and I think we make some pretty good linebackers, it looks like. So most athletic guys on the field, if I do say so myself. But no, they've got the defensive front that we've talked about all year long. So especially that interior, you got Jalen Carter just manhandling things and making things difficult. I think the big test, though, I know we like to talk trenches, but again, the big test here I think is going to be secondary. You got a couple of young rookies back there that have played really well, but this is their first playoff trip, second game of the playoffs here. and they're playing against two of the best receivers in the game, and Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. So, and obviously Matt Stafford has been known to get the ball to those guys pretty well. He's seen quite a bit in his time in the NFL as well. So, tough offense to go against. I do think it's playable because they do have a defense that pretty elite unit, can play with anybody, any offense in this league. But also there's a story you can tell yourself where those young guys get burned a little bit on the back end, and you paid $3,400 to take a negative score there. So, well, not a negative fantasy score necessarily, but not a score that's not as high as you'd like to see.
Yeah, and this is a game too where like the Eagles have to win this football game. The Rams can win it. There's a route for them to win it, and a lot of people are taking them to cover and be in the game. But the Eagles are really good, and we look at what the Eagles were defensively at this point last season to where they are now. I mean, the Buccaneers just destroyed the Eagles in the playoffs last year. At this point, so we move forward now. The defense has been fixed, like you said, with Vic Fangio. I think they're going to be just fine in this game. I think Philadelphia is going to score, and I think that's going to put a lot of pressure on LA. So you got to hope they defend the pass, but there's going to be opportunities for sacks. There's going to be opportunities for interceptions, which is another benefit of taking them in this game. Max, are you picking the Eagles to advance here?
Yeah, I am taking the Eagles. I just think that, again, team with a lot of playoff experience recently, over the last handful of years. I do think they kind of know what it takes to win these kinds of games. I know, obviously, LA did win a Super Bowl in the last handful, was it 4 or 5 years ago, give or take? But a lot of that roster's turned over. You've lost a lot of leadership on the defensive side of the ball, especially, and I do trust Philadelphia to win this game, especially at home. Philadelphia, that crowd can get a little bit rowdy, and I think they take this one.
It's crazy to think, too. I do think their season ends in this game. But when you look at the LA Rams, there was a point not too long ago where they were debating, like the rumors were going around that they were going to trade Cooper Kupp and kind of fold and rebuild on the season. And then they come out and they win the division. And it's unbelievable what they've done. I think coaching matters. I trust Sean McVay more than Nick Sirianni. I do trust Vic Fangio here from a defensive perspective. So I'll take the Philadelphia Eagles. Baltimore versus Buffalo, 6:30 CBS, big game on Sunday night. This is the one everyone wants to watch here.
Yeah.
First off, Max, before we even talk about like a winner in this game, I just want you to tell me what the better DFS defense is. Buffalo for 3,000 against Lamar, or the Baltimore Ravens for 2,900 against Josh Allen?
Man, like a lot of things in this game, it feels like a bit of a coin flip, because you've got two offenses that are among the elites in this league, just juggernauts. And if we're taking a coin flip here and you're telling me I can save $100 with Baltimore, I guess I'm taking them. So, but truly, you don't sleep well going up against these offenses. I think maybe another thing in Baltimore's favor is just they have gone on a little bit of a run over the back half of the year, where at the beginning of the year they were one of the weaker defenses. Kind of team was carried by the offense, at least in fantasy terms, and over the back half of the year they've really kind of tightened up a little bit. I think since they moved Kyle Hamilton back there to that deep safety position, they've it seems like they kind of found a little formula that works, and they've turned a corner. But like I said, don't really care if you turn a corner when you're playing Buffalo, because that offense can score at will, as we saw last week. But same goes for the other side of the ball. Baltimore can score at will as well, and we saw that when these two teams played each other earlier in the season. So, I think I'll take $100 in Baltimore there. But if the prices were swapped, I'd probably swap my answer.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's pick your poison here. This could be a shootout. This could also be a low-scoring game, too. I mean, there's a lot of routes for this one to go. Where like Lions Commanders, there's only one route. It's high scoring. There will be points on the board at some point there. So, looking at this game, Max, from a winner perspective, I see the Baltimore Ravens. If they come out and they play their best football game, they cannot be stopped. At the beginning of the year, we were saying the Buffalo Bills are going to be down this year, and Josh Allen has been the one that's totally changed that narrative around that team. But when you look at the weapons that the Ravens have, you look at Lamar versus Allen, like Lamar has outplayed Allen this year. They have Derrick Henry now. I think this is the game for Baltimore to win more than Buffalo. I do have my fears about the Ravens in the secondary, and I have my fears with this pick just in general because Buffalo can easily win the game. But I am going to take the Ravens here on the road, and I think it could be a horrible pick, but I bet they're the better team in my opinion. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think Baltimore takes this game. It is pretty tight. This is one like I would be stoked to see this in the AFC Championship game, or if they are on opposite sides of the bracket in the Super Bowl. Like this is going to be a really fun game. I think it'll be close. It's going to come down to it, whichever way it goes. But I do like Baltimore there. I will say playing in Buffalo is going to make it a little bit different than that regular season game they had, especially Buffalo in January. It's going to be cold, but I feel like that also is going to be tough on the Buffalo defenders because nobody wants to hit Derrick Henry in the cold like that because those hits feel a little bit different when it's cold out like that. It sting a little bit more, and he's within a game, he's the kind of rusher that as the game goes on, he wears you down. Same thing goes for a season, I feel like, because he always seems to get better as the season goes on. And as we get down here into the playoff weeks, I'm kind of excited to see how he does with a more legitimate chance to maybe get a Super Bowl than he ever had in Tennessee. So I think that'll be a fun matchup. And, just can't wait to see the fireworks.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's going to be great. And I think, it's tough to tackle Derrick Henry. It's tough to tackle Josh Allen. Both teams are really good, but I am happy we're getting this in the divisional round because we're getting that championship feel this weekend. And then the winner still is most likely, pending the Houston Texans don't pull off the upset of the century. They're still going to have to go slay the beast in Arrowhead, which makes it that much more fun. So we get that whole narrative. And I think out of all the year, I guess last year, like when we're looking at a Super Bowl champion, we look at last year, the Chiefs had to go on the road to Buffalo and win a football game. Then they had to go on the road to Baltimore and win a football game. So if they did that, they can do anything at home. But I don't know if the Chiefs were getting doubted more last year or this year. It feels like pretty equal across the board. What do you think?
Yeah, I know personally I probably doubt them a little bit more this year for a few reasons. One, it's just hard to three-peat. Nobody's ever done it in the Super Bowl era. It's just like it's a lot of games on the body over a course of 3 years to take to make those deep playoff runs. And so I think that's tough. We've also just seen that even though they have that insane record that they had, 15-2 record, their point differential was pretty tight for a team that's won 15 games. They've played a lot of tight football a lot of times against good teams, but also sometimes against not so good teams, like that game against Las Vegas on Thanksgiving Day or Black Friday, where they just hung on by the skin of their teeth on a miscommunicated snap between the center and the quarterback. It feels like they've won a lot of games on really fluky scenarios, but good teams put themselves in positions to win games in those kind of fashions. So I'll say that even though it kind of felt fluky, good teams put themselves in position to win, and they don't beat themselves. They let the other teams beat themselves sometimes, and they've done that. So still think they're a very good team. I think they can win any kind of game that you throw at them. But I also feel like this year, whoever emerges from that Baltimore-Buffalo game has a pretty good shot. I like that team to make it into the Super Bowl, I think. Which, being a doubter of Kansas City hasn't really been working over the last few years, though. So,
you can't doubt them. But like, if there's a year where they're probably, and we're saying this about realistically a one-loss football team, they take week 18 out of the equation. So it should be interesting. I'm really looking forward to it this weekend. Max, one DFS defense, if you have to pick it for people to play out of the entire Saturday, Sunday slate, what would you take?
Yeah, kind of hinted at it already, but I do like the Houston price there. I think I can see that game being pretty low scoring, and if you can get a couple sacks, like a turnover or two maybe, I think you'll be pretty happy with that at that $2,500 price. Yeah,
I'm gonna say it's a tough one for me. Looking at these games, I'm gonna say the Baltimore Ravens here for $2,900. I hate to do it, but I think if the game script plays out how it should, I think you're going to see the Ravens run the ball and try to protect the clock and lean on Derrick Henry. I think you're going to see Josh Allen forced to make a lot of plays in this game. And I think it could be a low-scoring game more than anything. So I'm going to take the Ravens. Hopefully they can force a turnover off Allen. He's just trying to do too much by the end of the game.
Yeah, no, I definitely could see that. Yeah, that game, yeah, it could play out so many ways. I'm excited for that game, man. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, there's so many ways for that one to play. I mean, like, realistically, Texans Chiefs, it's probably going to be a lower scoring, Chiefs win kind of defensive battle. Lions Commanders, like, I'll take the Lions in a shootout, but a comfortable win for them. Rams Eagles, it's like I see more the Eagles running away with that game than the Rams keeping it close. But Ravens Bills, like, there's so many different ways this game can really go here. So that's what makes it exciting.
Oh yeah, and if it does come down the way you're saying, where Josh Allen has to make some plays, I know he's made some pretty insane plays over the years too. So even if he can't pull it out, I'm excited to see whatever he does pull out of his hat there, because seems to be a magician, especially there at home in the cold games. That snow game they had earlier this season, where was that the one where he caught his own pass, or am I mixing up some games? Yeah, he's just. I expect he'll find a way to make a few plays if they need him down the stretch. I don't know if it'll be enough, but I know there's going to be some magic there.
Bills 8-0 at home, Ravens 6-3 on the road, and the Ravens have only lost one time in their past, 6 games. So should be really interesting here. But anyways, guys, that was In the Trenches for the Divisional Round. Taylor Kern joined alongside Maxx Forde. We'll be here next week talking AFC, NFC Championship. So very excited about that. Make sure you guys tune in. Good luck with your bets. Good luck with your DFS this weekend. And we will talk to you soon for another episode of In the Trenches.